This is Trigger Point, episode 19. My name's Serena, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Peter. Hello, Peter.
Hello, everyone.
I don't know. How have you been? I just realised we didn't actually...
We didn't actually think about this through at the start.
Normally at the start of every episode, we have a talk about what we're going to talk about later on. So, we have a little bit of structure. And we did. We spent a lot of hours talking about this, but we forgot to talk about what we'd say at the start of the show. Because we normally mention that.
Yeah. So actually, how have you been, Serena? Well, you've got more things to say than I do. So me being my usual self, I didn't really get up
I don't understand why. You've stopped you're no longer studying.
Yeah. But now I've just, used all the extra time to play tennis and stuff.
Okay.
No.
So healthy.
So instead of being able to do one session a week, now I do 3 sessions a week. So my evening, and I've been I have been riding my bike a lot more recently. So I bought a bike a few years ago, and it was a really, really nice bike. And I was using it quite a bit for the first 2 years or so. Mm-hmm. And then last year, I don't know what happened. I just stopped. And because previously, me and my friends would sometimes go on bike rides and we'll, ride to, St. Kilda somewhere or whatever. We'll go on bike trips.
Okay.
So we'll go camping somewhere and then we'll bike.
So active.
Yeah. So we'll bike somewhere and then we'll bike back.
Uh-huh.
And last year we didn't do any of that. And
Probably because you were busy with your study?
No, it would just... Well, that too, but it also... I could just never found... because we usually go camping during... a few years back, we go camping during Christmas. Mm-hmm. And then... Because it's kind of not quite... it's just after summer, but it's not quite, the weather's just nice for us to, go biking. And so that's when we'll be doing it. Mm-hmm. But we didn't do it the last 2 years. So, that's just kind of fallen off the radar. And so, my bike has been sitting in my garage for, the last year and a half without any maintenance. And, it's just been, gathering dust and whatever. And so, I think 3 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I really need to take up, biking, cycling again. At the very least, cycle to and back from tennis.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I usually do. So it's like a 20-minute.
Oh, now I remember. Yeah, you did. Yeah. For a moment, I'm like, I don't remember you saying you biked anywhere or cycled anywhere. And I remember, no. You lost your phone on your bike once.
Yes. Yes. I did.
That
brings back memories. So I decided, okay, I'm going to cycle back, the to and back from tennis. So I was doing that the last few weeks. The funniest thing is, the first time I went and picked up my bike after, a year and a half. Yeah. So it's in my garage and it's been sitting there. Haven't touched it. And obviously it's pretty dirty, right?
Yeah.
And so I got a cloth to clean it. But there were other bikes, around it.
Like your parents' bike?
No. Here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in my apartment. So a lot of people park the bikes there, right? And so I had to move some bikes over to the side so I get to my bike, right? Yeah. And I was looking at them, how am I going to move this? And because
everything's kind of
jumbled all together, and so I was like, oh, fine. And in fact, eventually I moved it, and I was cleaning my bike, and I was pumping up the wheels tires because obviously,
of course.
After a year and a half, they go flat. No matter how well it is, it goes flat. And so as I was pumping my tires up, my security came up to me.
They thought you were stealing a bike.
But I was stealing a bike. And then he came up to me and he realized what I was doing. And then the other security actually, who's our manager down here, actually recognized me. I was like, oh, it's you. I'm like, yeah. And I was like, oh, we're so sorry. We thought you were stealing a bike. Because apparently we had a few bikes stolen in our apartment. And so they deliberately have cameras set on these areas to try and get. And he was like, oh, damn, I thought we caught him as well. And I was like, sorry, no, it's just me, just pumping up my back.
that you haven't touched in a year and a half.
Yeah, which is why they're also like, oh no, because we haven't seen people use it for a while. So I was like, yeah, don't remind me. So that was kind of interesting, getting mistaken for a bike thief.
Yeah.
At my own apartment.
Yeah.
Go me, being dodgy, yay. Anyway, that was my highlight the last few weeks. What else have you been doing?
Since our last episode, there has been like the Easter break.
Mm-hmm.
And went up to Queensland to visit Andrew's family.
Yeah.
And Easter is the perfect time to go up to Queensland. No, seriously, even just normally, right? Like, sure, if you like to go and, fry in the beach and stuff like that, yeah, go during Christmas, whatever. But if you want to go up there and enjoy, nice weather, Easter is a great time. Like, there might be a rain or two, 1 or 2 days or something, but overall you get this nice breeze, fresh breeze kind of thing. It's not too sunny, but it's not cloudy or anything, right? Like it's nice, just nice weather. Like I went to no beaches, so that's good. We went to a place called Mary Cairncross Scenic Reserve, which is kind of like a mini forest. Like it's you go. Technically, you could just walk in.
Yeah.
But they do have a building and stuff that you try to walk. They try to control. Like they try to get people to go through there. It's an information center. You could donate money, whatever, so that they can maintain the place.
Yeah.
And then there's a walkway, and the whole walk takes about an hour to go in and out. And you will see like native fauna and flora and stuff. And there's like plaques and stuff to tell you, there's this kind of vine that goes up the tree and it looks really nice and stuff, right? But it's actually choking the tree. And you're like, oh, okay, but you're not going to do anything about it. Yeah, no, because that's just nature, right?
Yeah.
So they do that.
Yeah.
And like, there's wallabies that just bounces across, and there was like was it a bush hen or whatever they called? I don't know. Andrew had a name for it. I can't remember. It was interesting because of the time we went, because we went other places too before we went here. We went like at 3 or 4. So that was a time when at that place the sun is kind of setting a little bit and all the birds were out. Like you can hear them. Like I can't, there's just so many of them. It was just nice. It was a nice, hiking kind of thing. So, yeah, and ate a lot of chocolate. So much chocolate. It was really nice.
Yeah. It's chocolate.
Yeah, no, I normally don't have that much chocolate during Easter, but they just had a lot of it. Like, it's just different. Like, for a family that don't do, like, my family don't really do much about Easter. Yeah. So when you go to somewhere where the family really, they're really into Easter, they're really into Christmas and all that sort of stuff. So when you go there and there's Easter, like, there's chocolate just everywhere. And they're constantly offering you chocolate, and you're kind of like,
okay.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But some of them are really good too.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also but okay, this is Future Serena interrupting for a spoiler alert. Look, we don't usually do this, but I think with this show, it really is important to watch this before listening to us. If you have any plans to watch this at all, because this show is an experience, and if you hear anything about it, I think it kind of spoils it a little bit. Like we'll mention it a little later, but the show starts off slow, but you need to go through it. Like just try your best, watch the whole thing before listening to us, because I don't want to raise people's expectations, but this is not one of those shows where you can listen to someone talk about and then go and rewatch it without it affecting your experience at all. So that's one thing. The second thing is we know we pronounce Carissa's name wrong. We keep on saying Carissa, so I apologize in advance for all you people out there who are pulling your hair out and yelling at your podcast player. We apologize. We said it wrong. So we are aware that her name is Carissa, not Carissa. Anyway, on with the show. Okay, so let's move on to the actual show.
Yeah, we'll get straight into it this time.
Yeah, it's actually quite... We're jumping into it fairly quickly. So, this month we are watching a show called Steins. Did you finish the game?
Yes.
Did you finish the anime?
I did.
Wow.
I know, right? And I finished it ahead of schedule as well, because we were supposed to do this recording next week.
Yeah, I know,
right? So I actually completed this like a week in advance. So proud of myself.
Okay, ask me how long it took me to watch Steins.
Oh, sure. How long did it take you to watch Steins?
1 day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1 day.
So I thought it took you a lot longer, because when you messaged me and saying like how slow it was, I was like, oh, so I thought you've watched like a few episodes.
No.
Oh, you went through the whole.
I watched I watched 14 episodes back to back. Then I'm like, this is boring. This is slow. Like episode 14 was when something happened.
Yeah.
And because I knew, Peter told me that this was a game.
Yeah.
So I had certain preconceptions of what the game was about. This game is essentially a game about time travel.
Yep.
And in a way, like, they didn't really start doing a lot of time traveling until episode 14.
Yeah.
Like, stuff started happening and they needed to change stuff.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I thought that was when the game started, right? Yeah, like I thought that the game was about traveling through time and fixing a problem or solving
an issue.
An issue. So when that issue started happening, episode 14, I'm like, oh, okay, the game has started. I'm like, wait a second. It took me 14 episodes to get to when this game is starting. What the hell? And also, what was happening that time was like, oh, he went back in time, tried to save a person, failed. Go back in time again, try to save the person, failed. And doing this all again. That's why I thought this was what the game was about, right? That a person is playing this game, trying to save this person, and failing and failing and failing, right? And I'm like, oh, this is boring. If this is what the game is about, okay, that's kind of boring. But it took me 14 episodes to get here.
Yeah.
I was getting really annoyed. I messaged Peter, and I need to talk about this. I ranted. We ranted for like an hour. Yeah.
Because I was on the way to the airport when we were talking about this. Yeah.
And I'm like, I hate the characters. I hate the things. The story is so slow that normally when I watch anime, I watch it with Japanese voiceovers and English subtitles, because I think, I thought this is like the true way to experience an anime, right? Yeah. To hear it as it is and to read the English subtitles. Yeah. And my thought was, normally I understand enough of Japanese culture that I can understand the weird direct translations that are happening in the subtitles. Yeah. But this show was so slow, I felt like I need to be doing other things while I'm watching the first 14 episodes. And I can't do that because my Japanese is not good enough, especially when they're talking about time travel.
Yeah, when they're talking science lingo.
Yeah. My Japanese is not good enough to understand all of that. So I'm like, okay, I'll bite the bullet. I'll sign up at least for a 1-month trial with Anime Lab, and I'll listen to this in English dub.
So not to mention,
so I could be doing other things, because I'm like, okay, I hate this show, and I'm only going to watch it because Peter is making me do it. I hate the main character. His voice annoys me. His overreaction is like. Looking at this main character, I feel like, how could he have survived so long? Like, technically speaking, in the real world, if this guy existed, he would have been thrown into the asylum ages ago. And watching the English dub, surprisingly, mellowed him out entirely. Not that he wasn't weird. He still was weird.
Yeah.
But at least it was an acceptable weirdness. And also because this show is based on a visual novel, there's a lot of scenes where people are just standing. Yeah. And talking, which means there's not a lot going on visually, which is quite boring, to be honest, right? So I need to be doing something else. When they have an English dub, I could be doing other things. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is more acceptable. Yeah. I don't care. You guys just waffle on. I'll get to we'll get to some... When something interesting happens, I'll look at the screen, right?
I'll pay attention when you guys need me to pay attention.
I mean, like...
Oh, actually, and okay, just on a side note. So when Serena called me and told me how she had trouble dealing with this. And then I said to her, look, even the game starts very slowly. And this is one of the few times which, it is a very slow start.
Yep.
But I said, look,
Apparently, what
it.
I thought was the start of the game was not the start of the game.
No.
What I saw, the whole 14 episodes, all that boring stuff, existed in the game as well.
Like, it was actually in the game. For me, though, because I was playing it as a game, it didn't feel that boring to me. Because I was kind of still in control and I was kind of still doing stuff in that period. So even though the story, the progress for the story was exactly the same as the anime, I felt that I was inputting more into it.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like it dragged.
You were agent of your own destiny kind of thing. Because you get to do stuff.
I get to do, and if I thought oh, this part isn't really gripping me or whatever,
interesting.
I would just
skip through
it. Yeah, just talking in mundane stuff like that. Okay, and I can kind of control that in my own way, so I didn't feel like it dragged. But I can totally see, because now that I've watched the anime, I understand what you were saying. It's like, oh yeah, if you take away that aspect of the game and you're just telling me the story in your time, in how you want to show it, it's not how I would have liked to watch this. Yeah. So I can totally get that, why it was slow.
And also, they have a tendency of, like, you watch it to the end and you realize they do it on purpose. But there are a lot of, like, slice of life bits in this show. Like, you have all the characters getting together, eating or drinking, and they'll be chatting like a normal, group of friends would do.
Yeah.
And you'll listen to them and they're talking. Like, I guess if you were a friend of theirs and you were sitting there and you were talking with them, it's all fine. It's all enjoyable. But you're watching this show knowing that this is supposed to be about time travel. Or, like, even at the start of the show, they mention CERN being an evil corporation that's taking over the world in the future. Now, I understand that the main characters don't take that seriously because it's just something you read on a forum. Yeah. But as a person watching this anime and kind of knowing about time travel, you're like, wait. This might be real. Yeah. CERN is a threat. It's someone actually from the future came back and they're writing this stuff. You gotta take it seriously. So you're waiting for those snippets where they're doing something about it. Yeah. You're waiting for something that's moving the main storyline forward. So when you're seeing a group of them discussing what soft drink to drink or what soft drink to buy, you're like, come on, don't waste my time. Just get to the main story. Why are we going on about the name of D-Mess? This doesn't matter. Move on. Now, after you've watched to the end, you understand they did that for a reason. Even when I'm watching it, I could feel some of it. Like I feel like you're doing this so that I understand these characters, so that I truly understand what they mean to each other. So when shit hits the fan, so to speak, you will feel like as strongly as they would. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's any less annoying. It doesn't mean it's any less boring. But I can tell people that it is worth doing. Like, it is worth slogging through. Because, as I said, I rang up Peter at episode 14, ranting and raving and saying how much I hate this show and I can't believe he's making me watch this. Then when I finished it later that night, I sent him a message like, okay.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it. Because... near the end, there were a couple of moments where I thought the show finished. Like, there was a. Are we going to spoil? Yeah, we're going to spoil this. You can't talk about this without spoiling this. I'll limit the amount of spoiling there is. Yeah. There's a point where a character dies, so to speak. Yeah. Well, they're going to die. And you feel it. Like,
you feel the heartache, the pain, the tugging.
Yeah, the heartstring tugging. So, going back to our last episode and how we were... our last podcast episode and how we were talking about how A Korean Odyssey failed to elicit any kind of emotion. Like, I watched a Korean series expecting to cry and none of that happened. Yeah. This one... I didn't really expect to have any kind of emotion, or at least not at that level.
Yeah.
But I watched this and I'm like, oh.
It's like, okay, no, that got me.
Oh, that hurts. Oh God, that hurts. And like that episode ended, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I need a
breather.
I need to rest for a little bit. Really hurts. And then I watched the next episode, and I think that was episode 23.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're watching this on Anime Lab, you finish an episode and it jumps to the next one.
Yeah.
You know, like any streaming service, it just goes into the next episode. I watched up to episode 23, and it had all the hallmarks of if anyone's watched a lot of anime that are based on games or comics or something like that. There are a lot. There's a subgenre of anime out there whose sole purpose is to advertise the game or to advertise the comic, which means the anime never finishes.
Yes.
It kind of like leaves on it's not on a bad note, but it leaves on a whole open-ended kind of like, you want to know what happens to these people that you've invested in?
Yeah. Please buy the bag, buy the game, buy the manga, buy the light novel, you know?
Yeah. Look, comic is fine because I can still find comics with English subtitles online, but games is like, I can't buy the game, and even though I can buy the game, it's in Japanese. I don't want to play a whole game. Like, I have to replay all I've watched on the anime to try and find the ending. And it might not even be the ending because there's multiple endings I need to go through. So that's annoying. Light novel. I could buy the light novel. Again, it's not translated. You need to find translated versions elsewhere. And so it's like, oh my God. Like, I have no idea what the ending is. That is so frustrating. So I'm watching this, and this have all the hallmarks of those animes. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna
end on this note where you don't
this
know.
ending is not a true ending. They're like, we are going to go and, solve a problem, and
that's the end.
That's the end. Like, and then Anime Lab stopped. It didn't play a next episode, so there was no next episode. And I'm like, wait, what? What did Peter do? What is this? One of those that doesn't end? And I was so annoyed. Like, I was nearly furious. I was really, really pissed off. And then I reloaded Anime Lab and looked through their episode list because I'm like, I just could not believe it. Like, when you kind of like, was it those 7 stages of grief or whatever? Like,
denial.
Denial. Like, it was just like, what? No, this is not possible. So I looked at the, episode list, and then they're like, oh, there's an episode 24. I'm like, what? Why? Am I being trolled by Anime Lab? When you watched it, did it jump from 23 to 24? Do you remember? Did it just keep going?
I can't remember. Because I usually stop after every episode anyway.
Oh, okay.
So I don't...
You didn't binge it?
I did, but like I usually, after every episode, I'll go and like...
Get a drink of water or whatever.
Yeah. So I, like... Especially the last few episodes, I tend to do that just to like give myself a breather.
Well, it's not just that. There was no next button.
Oh, really? Huh, okay.
Yeah, I had to go back to the anime, like the episode list, and find episode 24.
Okay.
It would have been entirely possible if I didn't reload it to have just stopped at episode 23 and think that was the end and be completely annoyed and pissed off. But luckily I found episode 24, rewatched it, like it was a fist pump moment, kind of like, oh my God, yes, let's go. And the ending was good. I liked the ending. It was
very well done. Like it was very.
It was worth it. It paid off all the time.
For that first hours. 14 episodes, that was very, very, very slow. It was worth it.
It was so worth it. Now we're going to focus on each of the characters later on, but let me just quickly say, like, it was even worth having to deal with certain characters I didn't like. Yeah. Because I think the people who wrote this story are very deliberate in the stuff they do.
Yeah.
And they do annoying things
deliberately
on purpose. Yeah. Not just to annoy you, but just so that when other things happen, you appreciate it more. Now, because I already said how I felt about the story overall, when you recommended this anime to me before you started playing the game, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was what you played and what you watched what you expected when you
Well, okay, so the reason why I said let's do this one is because one of my friends had played the game and she really enjoyed it, and I know that we have very similar tastes in games. So when she recommended to me, I was like, okay, sure, I would like it. I already know I would like it in that respect. Like, I think I've very rarely had something that she would enjoy and I didn't. In a sense, so. And because, as I said, when you're playing the game, it didn't drag as much as the anime did in the sense that because I was in control of it, so I didn't feel at any point.
Not that it didn't drag. You didn't feel.
I didn't feel like it was dragging. In hindsight, it probably did, but I kind of also kind of felt like, oh well, it will get
better.
It'll get better, and it'll give me the stuff that I do want.
And you trusted it because someone recommended it to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't trust you as much as you trust your friend.
I know, right? Just given what we've put each other through so far, that makes sense. But yeah, so I didn't. It was kind of what I was expecting. That way. Obviously, it wasn't what you were expecting in a way.
I didn't know what I was expecting, to be honest. But because it was an anime, I expected it to kind of follow some of the usual kind of formula. You know, you introduce the characters really quickly. You know, they kind of tell you. You can know more about the characters as they go along. But normally they have a very quick kind of like, this is this kind of character, that's kind of character, and this is the storyline, and here's what we're gonna do. In this show, you watch it, and they kind of introduce the characters very quickly, but the way they introduce the characters at the start is not actually true to what they are as they keep going.
It seems like they introduce characters in a very offhand kind of way.
Yes.
But it turns out that there is a lot more to them.
They introduce them in a very like stereotypical way. Like, oh, this is like the hacker, the nerd. You know, this is the maid cafe kind of like maid. You know, they introduce these
There's
people.
a lot of tropes that they deliberately use and deliberately try to make you think that these are
what they are. But they're more. They're more than that. Not that they're not. It's not completely untrue. It's not a lie, right? This person really is a hacker. That person really is a maid in a maid cafe. But there is more than that. And when you see what they are, you appreciate it. And there's a whole storyline because that's the point of this game, right? Like in this game, you can have multiple endings. Each ending
focuses on one of the characters pretty much.
And so in the anime, they also kind of do the same thing. Like certain things happen in this show that they have to reverse back because at the start, they find out that they could travel in time, kind of thing. Like, you know, just broadly, very quickly, you know, skimming through the thing. They found out that they could affect the past. Okay. And every one of them kind of had something that they wanted to change. So as a favor to all these characters, the main characters like, you know, let's change let's change it. Right. And, you know, originally you think it all went for the better. Right. You know, they made the changes and things were better, and they thought, okay, that's good. You know, let's make all these changes. But because these changes were made, episode 14 happens, which is one of the character dies. And you're like, oh, okay, now we need to save her. And he tries all these different ways to save her, and he realizes, no, none of this is going to work.
It all basically, it's as if all endings would lead to her dying.
Everything, you can't do anything. I mean, we're gonna like skim over a lot of the explanations that they made about time travel and what time traveling is and stuff, because
it gets very convoluted and it is very difficult to explain.
They took 24 episodes to explain it to us.
Exactly. So, we can't do it in an hour. But in saying that, if you are interested in the science behind it or you like that stuff, then I would highly recommend playing the game because the anime does explain it, but it doesn't go into it in a full details.
They're constrained by the media, the form.
And the game explains that in a very detailed and very rewarding way, so you can actually follow and actually make sense. So, whereas if you just follow the anime, if you think deeply about it, it seems like there's a loophole, or
like plot holes in there.
Plot holes in there,
and the time traveling and whether this works or not work.
I can say if you play the game, they do address all those issues, so it does work. But as I said, in the anime, they're constrained by the time and everything, right? So,
but it doesn't affect the story, right? Yes. Not knowing all the nitty-gritty science details doesn't affect the story.
You can still enjoy watching it, and it still makes a very coherent story.
Yes.
That way.
So he essentially finds out that the way to stop one of the characters from dying is to reverse all the changes that they made.
Yeah.
Right? All the changes that they made earlier in the show, they need to go back.
And change them one by one.
in the reverse order in which they were made.
Yeah.
And so to do that, you then explore each of these characters' backstory and why they wanted to change
in the first place. Because the funny thing, like, it's actually, they don't tell you why some of them tell you, but not all of them tell you why they wanted to change.
In the first place.
And sometimes you don't know what the changes were.
No.
Until you then go into that backstory where they have to undo the change, and you learn about each character's motivations, and that's where you kind of explore each character. And
and for us to talk about, I think we want to make this easy, we'll just go and talk about some of the characters in this show, and that would kind of lead on to some of the stories revolving around them.
Okay, so which character are we going to talk about first?
I would say I will talk about the one I hate most, because then we could get that over and done with. So you have the main character. He's a guy, and he's inventor. He's not the guy I have a problem with.
Oh, you did have some problem with him.
Yeah, but that was just his voice actor, and the way they wrote him to be kind of strange. But we'll get to that later. So you have this main guy, and he has a best friend, a childhood friend, a girl who is so nice and sweet, and you could already hear the disgust drifting off. No, it's just. It's so unrealistic. It's the kind of character that exists all over anime world, right? That no matter how bad things get, she was
always optimistic
and always hopeful. Positive and always see the silver lining. And it's like, oh, bad things happen to me. It doesn't matter because I feel you might have a worse day than me, so.
It's okay.
Let me help you, right? Like, I might be bleeding and dying, but I'm sorry for dying on you and causing you pain. Can I help in some way before I die? Like, that's the kind of feeling I have with this kind of character. You're like, really? Really? So, and that's still kind of fine if they weren't also a waste of space. Like, they cause problems, right? Like, people have to go out because they're so sweet and so nice and so innocent and so they're like the good, they represent the goodness in this world. So everyone needs to protect her, right? So this character is called Mayuri. So because she becomes the damsel in distress, she's the one who dies. Okay, constantly, over and over again. So. At first, it's like only the main character is trying to save her. Yeah. Right? And to the extent where it's like he doesn't even care whether his other friends die or not. He just cares about saving her. But she just dies. Like, there's nothing you can do. Because in this story, and we'll talk a little bit about the time changes here. Essentially, they're saying that strands of time, if you remember the butterfly effect, you go back in time, you step on a butterfly, and everything changes in the future. Like, it's completely different from what you think. In this world, you can make small changes,
and they won't
affect anything
or anything major.
Yeah. So essentially, in this timeline that they're found themselves in, she will die no matter what you do. He keeps on going back and trying to change it, but she will die she would die in different circumstances, like completely different circumstances. Some would be someone shoots her in the head. Some would be she gets run over by a car, and the person who's driving the car might not even do it on purpose. Or
it could be an accident. Like, it could be an accident. Like, she could get deliberately killed, or she could be killed by an accident. There is no underlying cause for her death, but
she will die.
Yeah, the result of her death is kind of there. Like,
she has to die. Yeah, and so in this world, it's okay to make small changes, and nothing will change. Now, in this world, in this storyline, not being able to change her dying is the problem.
Yes.
you need to find the moment in time where you can make a change so big that
you basically jump to a different line altogether.
Yeah, a completely different stream.
Yeah.
Time stream, so to speak. So she is the damsel in distress. She is constantly getting saved, originally by him, and then later on by everyone else who surrounds, like, once they find out what the issue is, like, oh no, we got to save her. She's like, she's so important. We have to save her.
It's one of those moments, because she is so loved by everyone who did those changes were willing to undo the change because, I need to save her as well.
Yeah.
Like, she is still my friend.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to
sacrifice
whatever I will sacrifice whatever I deliberately done.
I will sacrifice my happiness.
Yes.
I made certain changes in the past so that I could be happy now.
Yeah.
But now that you told me like my happiness was at the cost of her life, well, it's okay. It's okay. I could
live
be
with it.
unhappy for the rest of my life, so that this waste of space and time and oxygen and everything could continue to exist. Because that's the thing; they don't actually give you any reason for wanting her to live, except for the fact that she's nice.
Yeah.
Right? She actually says it herself. She's really useless. Yeah. It's really interesting. Like in a lot of animes, you will have characters that are really kind of useless, and and unfortunately, a lot of them are the female characters. Yeah. And you're like, come on, like that's just a little sexist.
Yeah.
Okay, the guys are always so. No matter how useless they are, they learn to be better.
Yeah.
They
improve somehow.
She, like the female damsel in distress, never does. If anything, sometimes you have strong characters like in Sword Art.
Yeah, it becomes the damsel in distress,
and it just gets annoying. Now, what makes this additional annoying is because in this show, you have a lot of female characters that are very capable, right? You have some that are very smart, some of them who kick ass, and they're all...
Some that's very influential.
Yeah, and they're all very,
capable.
And so when you have her, and she actually says she has nothing to contribute. If anything, most of the contributions she makes are so
detrimental,
brainless that you're like, how did you survive till this age? Like, you should be dead by now. So I don't really like her, especially when I see all the sacrifice
that's
that
made
everyone
for her.
done for her. Right? In the end, they kind of like. In the end, it kind of slightly changed. They're not doing it for her. They're doing it for the main character because he treasures her so much. Like, in the end, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, Carissa was able to... We'll get to it. Yeah. She sacrifices something not because she believes that the girl deserves it. She does it because, I see how much... You're working to try and save her. So because of that, I will sacrifice this for you, not for her. And I'm like, oh, okay. That was part of like later on you're going, oh, heart, shit. So, I don't like Mayuri.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you're playing the game, Mayuri is the default ending that you get.
Yeah.
So she's not the true ending.
But as you said, the ending was like not a good ending either.
Yeah, it does end up with...
I think we need to kind of explain a little bit, right?
Yeah. Okay, so basically at the end of the movie, end of the show, Okabe has two choices. Okay, one is to save Mayuri.
At the cost
of Carissa, basically.
Carissa would die.
Yeah.
And if you decide you want to keep Carissa alive, then Mayuri will have to die.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that was the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Do you cause one person to die?
At the expense of the other.
Yeah, that's kind of like a very generalized thing, right? And Carissa is kind of like saying, no, I'll die because you
I can see you're in so much pain.
Yeah, you work so hard. And technically I was supposed to die anyway.
Yeah.
So this was stolen time for me. It's fine. And it really was painful to watch. So I don't know.
But in saying that, we both agreed though that you needed Mayuri to kind of be like that.
Yes.
Because it was because of her like that. We felt that when Carissa's character.
Okay, I think we need to explain a little bit, just slightly. In the whole show, because of the way the main guy treasures Mayuri as a childhood friend and stuff, you can't help but think, is the show pushing for them to be together? Yeah. Because there's so many shows you've seen out there where childhood friends equal romance equals they're going to be together forever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this and I'm hating Mayuri and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to be together, right? He's saving her. Once he saves her, it was going to be an all happy ending because I actually forgot that Carissa died.
Oh,
right at the start. I forgot that the whole start of this thing was because she kind of died. So I didn't remember that had to be reversed. Like she has to die again so that Mayuri would live. Yeah. So I just thought, oh, okay. So the guy's going to go with this wasteless space, and that's what the anime is pushing for because it felt that way.
Yeah.
And so we hated her. She was annoying, and then you find that because he was doing all this to save Mayuri, and Carissa was watching all of this.
Yeah, and helping him throughout this.
Yeah, Carissa falls in love with the guy because of she sees how much he cares for her. At the same time, he falls in love with her because Carissa
is the one
helps
that's
him.
She's the only one that can understand him and help him
and trust him. And all that. They form a bond over the fact that this girl is dying and they're trying to save her.
Yeah,
and so it's like, it kind of. We can kind of forgive her for being useless because her uselessness...
her existence was so that they can bond over her.
yeah, they could bond over her death. Like, they could bond over trying to save her. And so it's like, okay, maybe you're not completely useless after all. Or more likely, because you were the red herring.
Yeah.
Like, we were so afraid that he was going to be with you. When he decided, when you find out that he doesn't see her that way, but he loves Carissa instead, the satisfaction that we feel
was like, yes.
We're like, oh, thank God. So in that case, even though I hate her, I could understand why she needed to exist. Which is not what I could say about Malaika. Another character that I don't like. Yeah. Sorry, we're just going to go with the bad bits first, maybe, and then we'll go to the good things. Yeah. Look, I love the show. Yeah. There's just a couple of characters that are annoying, okay?
Really just these two.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. Look, Malaika as a character is fine. Okay? She
doesn't say much.
She doesn't say much. She doesn't do much. I don't even understand. That's my problem with this character. I don't understand why she's there. And then to make matters worse, she was actively working against them.
Oh, yeah.
You find out later she's actively working against them. But in the end, you find out that a pin is made with everyone's initial on it. Anyone who was part of this, that was part of the group,
lab.
Yeah. And she gets given one. And I have a problem with that. Yeah. I have no problem with her otherwise, to be honest. She's kind of forgettable. Yeah. Because I don't even know why she's there. Yeah. Like, her story doesn't really matter to me, even till the end.
Well, because hers was also slightly interesting because, like, she doesn't really have her own route, per se, in the game because she's not a love interest. Okay. All of the other ones were. So you can't choose an ending with her, basically. Okay. What you can choose is to see more of her backstory, but more of her underlying cause, I guess. But
well, that's also the thing, right? All the others made a sacrifice. Yeah. Right? They changed something in time because of something. Yeah. And they had to give up something to go back to the original timeline. Yeah. Her change was not for herself in a way. No. So she doesn't actually sacrifice anything.
Exactly. Because she was deliberately getting... Basically, she thought
she could steal something. She could
steal something from them, and she's actually the mole.
Yeah, and so for her to get the badge to say she's part of
the lab,
the whole idea is that by the end of the game, end of the show, a lot of people actually forgot what happened throughout. Because it's a time story, right? Yeah. Time travel. Yeah. So certain things, everything gets erased, so to speak, but you don't feel like it was all for nothing. Yeah. Right? So that's still good. Because the problem with sometimes time travel stories is like, nothing has actually happened. All the stuff that happened in the middle, everyone forgets
it, so it's all fine.
It's all fine. Now here, everyone forgets, but there's like slight remnants of memory. So because there's slight remnants of memory as well, I'm like, wait, you're gonna give her a badge?
Yeah,
think of
all the things she did against you, and you say it in like the main character himself says it. I shouldn't forgive her. She's the one that in some of the scenarios, she's the one that kills Mayuri. Yeah. It's like I can't forgive you.
Yeah.
And he says it, but at the end he still gives her a freaking badge, and we're like, what the hell?
Like,
why?
No.
It's like, that doesn't make sense at all. Why would you give her a badge?
Okay, so
but yeah, she was a waste of space as well. Didn't care for her.
But I don't hate her as much as Mayuri. As I said, I really don't have any problem with her during the show. It was just I didn't understand why she got a badge in the end.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to people that we liked. Which is majority of the characters, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go from the main character on. And we have Okabe, who's the main guy.
Okabe Rintaro, also known as Ho-In Choma.
I'm not even going to try to explain that, except for the fact that this guy is slightly delusional. Like, not Peter. I mean, the main guy is slightly delusional. He's talking on the phone like if he's a secret agent, and he makes comments to himself, reminder, send something to something so we could change the future, or whatever it is, right? And when I was watching this and we had the Japanese voiceover, before I realized I preferred it in English, this guy annoyed the crap out of me. Because you get thrown into this story. The problem with this anime also is that you get thrown into the deep end. You don't actually understand what's going on, who these people are. I knew that there was a time travel thing, but the time travel thing doesn't come into play until much later on. So I'm watching this and I'm wallowing and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. This guy's having like secret conversations on the phone to like his organization because there's a bad guy that's trying to get him. And I'm like, wait, is that true? And you find out that it's not, and he's making this stuff up. Yeah. And I'm like, why am I watching this guy? What is going on? Now, in saying that, his character does grow. Yeah. And he grows on me too, especially with the English voiceover. I really liked his voice in English, and he didn't seem so over the top.
The Japanese version does make him feel very outrageous.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it though.
But you watched him first on the game, right?
Yeah.
Was that not...
No, because in the game he was equally as...
No, but that's what I meant. It prepped you for it.
Yeah, so I probably just didn't see it as big of an issue. But then again, I usually don't have an issue watching someone that's so out of, like, ordinary, like, that's so out there.
So strange.
Yeah. I'm so used to seeing anime characters that are just... so strange, so it doesn't have an immediate effect on me.
Well, I don't know. Probably because most of the other animes that I watch, if you have really strange characters, you have more than one strange character. The world is just ridiculous, right? And you're like, oh, okay. And even if you have a world that's kind of real and you have one person that's ridiculous, people kind of go along with their ridiculousness, and you have a few people who kind of go along with it, so you kind of like, oh, okay. And here, you have other characters specifically calling it out. Yeah. Like that, oh no, the guy's delusional. Yeah. Oh, you can ignore him.
Yeah. He's just being an idiot right now. Just ignore him.
So you're like, wait, so why? What? Huh? Who is this guy? That's so strange. Like, so, it took a little while to get used to him, but he was,
But he does grow a lot.
Yes.
Especially, and you see his anguish when each of the route that he takes, like when he first figures out that he can't save Mayu by himself. Yeah. And he gets really distraught. Yeah. And that's when, Carissa helps him and they actually figure out, okay, this is what I need to do.
And that's the thing, right? You also see when he is distraught because he becomes serious. The change is kind of drastic because he doesn't play around anymore. Yeah. He's focused on what he's doing. And that's a good thing about this character too. He doesn't make a joke out of the sacrifices that other characters made. Yeah. Right? Because he had to go back on his word in a way. Like he allowed these people to change the past because he wanted what's best for them. Yeah. Then he had to come back and say, sorry, I know you made these changes because you were unhappy before, but I'm going to have to ask you
to change that back.
Yeah. To go back to your previous state because...
And I think it was... I found it really nice in some ways that there were some instances where he could have just changed it, but he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't have to ask for their permission.
Yeah.
He could have just reversed it without them knowing, because they would forget.
Yeah. So he could have just done it, but no, he deliberately went to them and asked for them to change it.
Yeah.
So that they know that they knew what they were doing.
Yeah. They had a say.
Yeah.
Because so let's jump a little bit ahead to some of the other characters so we could use this as an example. We have a girl called Ruka, who you find out is not a girl.
Yeah.
Like, you get introduced to this girl who's really cute,
really nice, really feminine,
not useless. Not useless kind of cute. No.
Yeah.
She's wearing like what do you call it? The shrine.
Oh yeah, the shrine
maiden kind of uniform
outfits.
Yeah. And and it was really actually funny how they were introduced, like how this character was introduced. The guys, like the main guy's there, and he's like, oh, she's like the epitome of like femininity. She's so cute and so so sweet. But he's a guy.
Yeah.
She's the epitome of feminism. But he's a guy. She's so cute in what she's wearing. But he's a guy. He has to constantly remind himself that this guy's a dude.
Yeah.
No. He didn't say he was a guy. Yeah, this is a dude.
Yeah.
But he's a dude.
Yeah.
He's a dude. This is not against. This was not a homophobic thing.
No.
It was just like, before you think of it, he's a guy.
Yeah.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the voiceover is also done by a female voice.
You mean
Ruka's voice is done by a female person, right?
Yeah.
And her actions are very feminine, but that's just because he is like that.
Yes.
Right? And so the game makes it, and the anime makes it very clear to you that no, don't be confused. This is a guy, right? We're talking about.
So, when they discovered that they could change the past, Ruka asked them, "Can I please send a message back to my mother to convince her to eat a lot of vegetables?" I think it was because
Apparently.
he believed that if you eat enough vegetables, the baby would be born a female. Instead of a male.
Yeah.
And they're like, it should be fine. Now the thing is, he was one of the last ones that were done, and by this point everyone was like, I don't know whether we should do any more changes to the past, because weird things are starting to happen. And they were like, oh no, this is not scientific. This is not scientific at all.
There's no scientific basis for this. It won't work.
Vegetables doesn't change the gender of the child. And so they let him send the message back. And the past changes, and he's a girl. Now, one thing we kind of skipped over the fact was the time travel here, at least at the start of the show, was not people jumping back in time. They could only send text messages back in time. And the moment the text messages are sent, you don't go back in time. You don't see all the changes that happen. You're still in your current time. You're still standing exactly where you were standing all the time and everything. But for the main character anyway. That's the thing, right? Only the main character could witness any of these changes, or even know what's going on. He would be there. He pressed send on his phone, and everything around him changes.
The history of everything changes.
But he doesn't know what changed. His memory doesn't change with it. He doesn't retain. He doesn't get new memories that happened, right? But everyone around him
acts as if that change was part of the history. And for them it was.
Like they don't remember sending that message back. So what you find out is Ruka is now a girl. But no one knew him as a boy. They all thought he was a girl all the time. Okay, which was kind of funny. There's some kind of like awkward social moment things happening, but we could skip through that. Okay, so the thing is, now he's a girl, and that was one of the sacrifices that had to be made. The guy Okabe knew that they had to rescind that message. They have to eliminate the effects of the first message. And so he had to ask the girl.
The now girl.
Like, this is what happened. Because you changed to a girl now. Moru
is
dies.
going to die. So I'm going to have to ask to change back into a guy.
Yeah. And so that's an example of what people have to go through. Like, okay, obviously he had a request. Like, she had a request. Okay, before I turn back into a guy, can we please go on a date?
Yeah.
Because I've loved you for a really long time.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the case even when he was a guy.
Yeah.
And the one thing about in this show is that even though we said everyone forgets everything, they actually retain bits, right?
Yeah.
So when Ruka was saying, "Oh, can we please go on a date?" Because I remember when we first met, you stood up for me.
Yeah.
When people were picking on me for being a guy,
Yeah.
you said to them, the bullies, as it doesn't matter what gender you are, right? Like, none of this matters, you know, guy, girl, whatever. It doesn't matter. None of this matter. And then Ruka's like, wait a second, why would I have this memory? If I'm a girl and people are laughing at me being feminine, it shouldn't matter, right? Yeah. So he actually retained some of the memories. Like, oh, wait, I was a boy, right? And it hurts. Yeah. It's painful. You watch it and they do go on a date and stuff, and he feels it. Even though he said yes, he still feels it slightly unfair that he had to do this. But he still does it, and you watch it and you're like, it's a sacrifice that they're willing to make. So Okabe, you better win this. You better succeed at this, because all these people
are sacrificing something for you to save Mayuri, basically.
So this is like the example, as I said, of what what the show is about. The second half of it, he has to go back. So Ruka is one of them. Yep. One of the other one is Faris. Very quickly, she was the head of the maid cafe in Akihabara. Mm-hmm. And she seems like a happy, very cheerful girl. Yep. And
also can be delusional because she makes some of all these stories as well. Yeah. and even Okabe is like, I'm getting a bit. I have no idea what you're talking now.
Yeah. She's even weirder than him in a way. Yeah. And she asked for she wished to send a message back, and they let her send it. You don't even know what the message was. Yeah. And you realize that after the message was sent, the whole Akihabara changes. So in case people didn't realize, Akihabara is like the center of nerdom in Japan, right? All the anime is in there, all the maid cafes and all the cosplays and all the stuff, like, and tech gadgets and stuff are in Akihabara. Yeah. After she sent this message, all of that goes away. Yeah. And you find out what she did was she brought her father back. Yeah. And you also find out that maid cafe which she worked at is actually owned by her. Yeah. And all the nerds and everything goes and gathers there. Everything that happens, all the moe culture, as they call it.
It's because of her.
Yeah.
Because she's actually, her family actually owns a lot of the land in Akihabara. Yeah. So she has a lot of say. And when in the old timeline, when she was the head of the maid cafe, it was because her dad wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. So she had to fill a void in her life, so to speak, and she created this culture, right? She cultivated it. She spread her influence all over Akihabara, and that was why it was this way. Yeah. And so when she changed the past, her father's alive, and she gives up on the idea of creating a maid cafe or anything like that.
But her dad's back now. And obviously, for people who don't know, Akihabara used to be the electric town. Well, that's what it used to be when we were kids, I guess.
Like electronic, not the cool gadgety kind of electronics, but the stuff where you get your fans fixed or your laptop fixed, but it's kind of like dingy. Yeah. So, when Okabe went to her and asked her to change the past, originally you thought, oh, it's nothing. She doesn't really feel anything.
Well, because you don't know what the change was.
No.
Until Okabe asked her, I need you to send whatever you send to change the past, because this is what happens. Mayuri dies if you don't do it. And then you realized, and then in the first place, she goes, I can't do it. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. And then you realize the reason why she can't do it is because if she does it, then
her dad dies.
And she basically doesn't. You're basically killing off her dad.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things where, like, oh, okay. She thinks about it and she decides, okay, I'm going to do this. But just like, give me one more day with my dad. And you see like the what you call it? When everything, they shorten it into a like
the montage.
Oh yes, thank you. That's the word. They have a montage of her with her dad and spending time together, and you're like, oh.
And then she comes in afterwards and is like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, and she sends a message and you're like, oh, that hurts. That hurts. And the thing is, these people, when they go back to their previous self, they know what they've done, right? But they're happy to do it because they're like, we're doing this to save Mayuri. Yeah. And while watching this, you're like, she doesn't deserve you, love. She doesn't deserve you.
Hey, So when they change all these, when they make all these changes, they go back to this other time. Like all the characters that had made these changes, they don't necessarily remember
all the details,
but they have inklings about it.
Yeah.
So it's like oh, this moment was very familiar to me. It's like they kind of say it in the deja vu way, right?
Yeah.
Deja vu is probably just something that you've experienced in a different
timeline
or something. So you see them afterwards going, oh, wait, that was like, I remembered something, but that couldn't have happened.
Yeah. I had a dream where I was a girl.
Yeah.
That was a nice dream.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You're like, oh, that hurts.
It's like, oh yeah. It's like, if my dad was still here, it's like, okay, and then Susaha. Oh God.
Oh, Susaha. Okay, so you found out at the start of the show that there's this girl that kind of acts kind of weird. Now, us being aware that this was a time travel show, we could see it from a mile away. She's like, she's not from this time.
She's from the future. Look at her.
She speaks strangely. She doesn't understand jargon. Do you not understand? She's not from this time. What is wrong with you people? And you find out, like, when they made a change, she said she was going to leave them because she was trying to find her dad. Okay, I'm trying to shorten this as quickly as I possibly can. She was trying to find her dad. She can't find her dad, and so she was going to leave them.
Yeah.
That's all you knew, right? You didn't know where she was from or anything kind of like that. Yeah. And the main guy character is like,
I can't leave. I can't let
her leave. So I'm going to message myself to not let her leave.
Yeah.
Okay? So he messaged, she doesn't leave, and everything seems to be
really
happy.
Nice. They're really happy. Everyone's really happy. They had a great party. Everyone was having fun.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, oh, that was good change.
Nothing bad happened. And then later on you find out, because she does tell them she's from the future. She came back to the past because she was trying to stop an evil corporation from taking over the world.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So she was supposed to go back to the 60s, but she decided to stop at our current timeline because she wanted to find her dad.
Yeah, she just want to see him.
Yeah. Now, she failed to find the dad, and so she's like, it's okay, I will continue my mission, I'll go to the 60s, and I will stop CERN, essentially. A short thing, right? I'm going to go and stop CERN. And now you find out that her time machine can only go in one direction. She can only go to the past, or third it into the past, but she can never come back. Which means if she goes to the 60s, she's going to give up all these friends that she made. Yeah. And that's one part of the 14 episodes, 15, 16 episodes that is now that you've watched. You're like, you've established this friendship, this base. If you go back to the 60s, you have to make friends all over again. Not to mention the fact that you're from the future. You're losing technology as you go further and further back. What kind of skills could you possibly have to help you maintain a lifestyle in the 60s? You're just kind of like, wow, you're giving up all this stuff to go back into the past to do this one little thing. It's not like her whole life is going to be revolving around this thing. She just need to do this one little thing. Once she does this thing, then
that's it.
That's her mission, and then she has to live the rest of her life
in that era
in the 60s.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it's okay. I understood.
This was my mission. I chose to do it.
Yeah.
I decided to follow my dad's footsteps. That's what I have to do.
Yeah. So she gets into her time machine,
and she leaves.
And
we do find out who the dad is, by the way, but we'll skip over that.
Yeah. So, and then she leaves, and you're like, oh, okay. Now, from everyone's point of view, her mission should be over, right? Because it's 30 years since when she was supposed to complete her mission.
So everyone was expecting, this 50-year-old lady was going to come up and say, hi, everyone.
Yeah,
remember me?
Remember me, because I need to make sure my younger self has left before I introduce myself as being the older version. And she doesn't appear. Yeah. Instead, they get a letter. And the letter was from her. Yeah. And it was given to them by a guy who said, oh, I was told to wait until this certain day, this certain time, and I come and give you this letter. Yeah. So they opened the letter and expected her to be like, oh, where's the writer of the letter? It's like, oh, she died a year ago. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. So she wasn't able to. She was sick.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't able to wait all the way until now to meet them.
Yeah. And at first you didn't necessarily feel like, oh wait, she died, like, because it was the 60s, so people
60s and 90s. She should still be like alive.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, it's also like, well, it's not uncommon for them to have died by then as well.
Right.
So at that point, you didn't necessarily feel like
anything is bad. Anything is wrong. You just think, oh, okay, she died of sickness or old age. Oh well, it's kind of
sad now.
It's sad that we kind of missed each other.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We still have her letter. Let's open her letter and see what she has to say to us.
That letter was
that was a very painful moment for me, because you open the letter, and as with anime, you have a voiceover reading out the letter, and the voiceover is of her. Yeah. But she's not happy. Yeah. You can see from her you can hear from her voice that she's devastated. Yeah. She's like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I failed. I failed. And you're like, what?
And she repeats that I failed, like, literally, like, a lot of times.
And even then, I was thinking, okay, it's okay. She just missed getting that one thing that she needed to do to complete her mission. Yeah. It's still fine. Yeah. It's still fine. It's okay. She's just so hard on herself. Yeah. It's okay. And then she explains, Something happened
to the time machine.
You know how I came back to your time and met you guys, but because of that, something happened to the machine. It kind of broke. Yeah. So when I went back to the time, something catastrophic happened during the transfer, and I lost all my memories.
Yeah. I only remembered who I am until a year ago.
Yeah. I only found out about my mission a year ago, which was like, like 2 years or 3 years from this point. Yeah. Like, she was already 50 or whatever her age was when she found out what her true mission was. So I lived a full and fulfilling life, not remembering any of this, who I am or what I'm supposed to do. I only just remembered who I am, and it's too late to do my mission. I've missed my time. Like, I missed the crucial time that I needed to do this. I'm so sorry. My life it was a waste. All this was a waste. Like, all her sacrifice, because originally, like, oh, you're sacrificing your lives, you're sacrificing your friends, you're sacrificing your future to go and live in the past just for this one moment. And you didn't even manage to do that one moment. You completely bypassed it. You forgot. And it would have been fine if you forgot. And you died, not remembering. But no, just before you
died, you remembered.
And to make matters worse, she did not die from a sickness.
No.
She killed herself. She could not live with herself. And she killed herself. And I'm like, this show is dark. Like, oh my God. Like, I didn't expect, like, I mean, Mayuri dying is Mayuri dying because she didn't sacrifice anything and then die.
And you keep on going back as well. So you keep on seeing her.
Anyway, you're gonna... No, she didn't do anything. It's not like she sacrificed anything and still died. There was no like, oh, what a waste. This is like, from when we saw Suzuha's storyline, it's like she's giving up so much. And yet it was all for nothing.
And okay, so to be fair, like, Suzuha didn't go back to necessarily just save Mayuri, okay, even though that was one thing that did happen. She had to go out because she needed to stop CERN. Because she was saying, if I don't do this, CERN is going to take over time control and we are going to live in a dystopia. So I need to do this for the humanity. So in her mind, she failed humanity.
Yes.
So she's doomed humanity to be slaves of CERN because she couldn't do this one thing. And in her mind, she can't forgive herself for that. And it was worse because you hear from the landlord that how easygoing and how nice she was
as an old lady.
And then in that last year, she just flipped into this different person, and that was because you realised that she remembered who she was. And that's why she killed herself. And you're just like, oh my God. I was like, oh God, that was terrible. So reading that letter was like, Yeah, that was a hard letter to read. Yeah. And when I was playing the game, you kept hearing her. I was like, oh my god, I don't want to read this letter anymore. Can I just pass this?
So I actually really liked her.
Yeah.
And I liked the other version of her that showed up at the end of the show because it gave her a happy ending in a way. Because that's the thing, right? With her, the reversal of her history was fairly easy. Because the person who changed the past was not her. She didn't request for her past to be changed. Yeah. It was just because the main character didn't want her to... Before he realized what she meant when she said she was leaving. Yeah. What she meant when she said she was leaving is she was leaving to go back to the 60s. Yeah. And he stopped her. Yeah. But because he stopped her, the time machine was out in the rain and got damaged. And that's why she had a catastrophic failure when she went back to the 60s. Yeah. If he didn't stop her, if she just went back to the 60s, nothing would have happened. Yeah. Like nothing would have happened to her machine. Yeah. She would have gone back to the 60s and it was fine. True, she wouldn't have had a deep friendship with everyone else because the main part of her friendship happened after she stayed back. Yeah. So he just had to not send the message. He just had to
he had to stop himself from following her. Stopping her.
Yeah, he had to stop himself from stopping her from leaving. Yeah. And when that was done, it was fine. She wasn't around. Yeah. Because she was living in the 60s at this point. She still died. Yeah. Okay, so that's the thing, right? He changed the past. Yeah. And he expected her to be alive now because she didn't kill herself. Yeah. But unfortunately, she still died, but she died of sickness. And they're like, oh, it's okay. But at least she didn't die with like heartache and regret and all that stuff. So that was all cool. So now he's reversed most of the
emails.
He reversed most of the changes, the change in timeline. He changed the guy from turning into a girl. Yeah. He changed Faris from saving her dad. Yeah. He stopped himself from stopping Suzuha. He stopped Moeka from, let's just not even explain what she did.
but just say, stopped her.
And you're like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we only have one more thing to go.
Well, okay, here's the point, right? They actually did a very small minor change in time, and I thought, one of the first things they decided to do once they realized they could change time was to go and buy the lottery and win a lot of money. Yeah. Except they didn't manage... They did change the timeline, but they bought the wrong lottery ticket, so they never won money. Yeah. So when they said, there's only just one thing we needed to change, I thought, okay, so they're going to reverse the lottery. That's fine. Nothing is bad from there. But they weren't. They weren't referring to that. No. That was a red herring on purpose. Yeah. What they meant was there was actually one change that started it all. There was a reason why all of this kind of started, and that was he witnessed Carissa's death right at the start of the show. And
okay, so should we talk about Carissa now?
Well, I think this is a best.
Okay, this is the leading to it. Okay,
because Carissa came out of nowhere in a way in the start of the show. She started in the first episode, but you don't actually know where she came from or who she was or what any of this is. But she's a very smart scientist, and she kind of joined their team and helped them with creating the time travel machine that they have.
Actually, she was integral into it, but she's the actual smart one.
Yeah. Like, if it wasn't for her, most of the stuff wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And when he was going back in time constantly to try and save Mayuri, he discovers that there was only one person who could help him, and that was Carissa. That was the one person who would believe him in the quickest amount of time. Yeah, and the least amount. It was the person he trusted to help him. Yeah. And they tried multiple times, doing all sorts of things, still not managing until they realized that they had to reverse the time changes that they did. Yeah. So every single time he makes a change, he still needs to explain to her again.
Yeah, because she's forgotten. Well, because she now doesn't have that memory of him telling her all of this.
So he's constantly... It's kind of like...
Groundhog Day?
Yeah, Groundhog Day. Yeah. He has to go back and he explains to her every time. And she believes him. Yeah. Every time. And... she's helping him and she's helping him.
And I think the one thing I do need to say in this part is the one reason why she also does believe in him is because how serious he is. Right? Whereas previously, she knows him as the crazy, delusional guy, right? Calls her by the wrong name. Like, he gives her all these nicknames that she hates.
He gives everyone nicknames.
Yeah, but for her, he has like 12.
Yeah.
So he always calls them by Christina. and just like, my name's Carissa. Stop adding Tina to it. It's not Tina.
So, like, and the thing is, they develop a relationship with each other because of all the attempts that they made to try and save Mayuri and all the sacrifices that other people made. She saw this. She saw how he asked them to make the sacrifice. She could feel all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you realize that at the start of the show, when he witnesses her death, he accidentally jumps in time to another timeline when she
wasn't dead.
She wasn't dead.
Yeah.
So now...
And what we realize is that was a big divergence, basically. That
was the butterfly effect.
That was the butterfly that actually split the timeline into two different ways. That actually goes on to two different cores.
Yeah.
So that was not a small thing that had the same results. That was a big instance.
He had to reverse that. He had to cause her to die.
Yeah.
Like, he had to let her die.
Yeah, in order for Mayuri to live, basically.
Yes. So at this point, I was really sad. Because here's the thing. By this point, they're in love.
Yes.
And this show doesn't drag on the love bit. Like, they don't like, oh, I love you, but I don't want to tell you. And there's no miscommunication or anything like that. No. They admit to each other that they like each other. Yeah. They spend a little time, fan servicing us in a way. Like, oh, they're together. Oh, so that's so cool. Yeah. And then you have a scene when they say goodbye, and that was really bittersweet. And after they return to a time when she's dead, no one remembers her. Yeah. That was like an extra kicker. Yeah. Like, everyone, at least he could commiserate with all these people, right? Like, they could understand that she died and what she meant to him and all that stuff. But no one knows who she is. Yeah. No one knows.
Well, they know who she is, but they don't know her as a person.
They know of her, but they don't know that they know her. Yeah. Right? They didn't realize that they were all friends. Yeah. They didn't realize he liked her or that she liked him. Yeah. No one remembers any of this. Yeah. And only he carries this burden. Yeah. And you're like, that's so sad. And I could also see the anime ending here because there's so many anime that ends on this bittersweet kind of thing. And this was when you were saying in the game that was the that was standard ending, right? That he ends up with Mayuri because Carissa is dead. And us, being the people who understand he loves Carissa, knows that he's only settling. Yeah. Like, this is his second choice. No, he doesn't even like her that way. We found out during those months that they were together. He only sees her like a little sister kind of thing. He treasures her, but he doesn't love her. Like, but he's going to be with her. Why? Because Carissa sacrificed her life so that Mayuri could be happy. Yeah. So that he could be happy in a way. Yeah. So he has to maintain happiness by being with Mayuri, even though he doesn't truly love her. And they're like, oh, that's
a terrible ending.
And that really kind of encourages you to play the game again to kind of like get a better ending.
Yeah, because when you're playing the game, you're like, I don't want this ending. I need to get all the good flags so that I can go to the true ending. Give me the true ending.
Yeah. Because look, if you haven't already, and I think I'm going to add a spoiler alert right at the start, telling people the same message. If you haven't watched this show, I seriously don't think you should be listening to us. Yeah. Because we spoil a lot of stuff. Not in the normal way. Because this is not one of those shows that you could hear about it and watch it and still be the same. Yeah. Like, you need to experience this.
You need to go through it.
Yeah, you really need to go slog through the 14 episodes and watch all this and experience all this heartache. So, if you haven't heeded my warning the first time, heed it the second time before we talk about the ending. Yeah. Because this really needs to be watched. Yeah. Unless you feel like, oh yeah, no, I'm never gonna watch this. I don't really care. In which case, okay, fine. By all means. But just understand, if you do listen to all of this, if you do go and watch it, you can't experience it because you already know what's going to happen. Yeah. So I'm going to re-record a message to add in the front. Yeah, so you think that that's the ending.
Yeah.
You think, oh, Carissa dying, she made a sacrifice just like everyone else did. But it is true, she died at the start.
Yeah.
She got this extra 3 weeks, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, the only person who actually lost, the only person who loses in this ending is Okabe.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything for anyone else.
Because he's the only one that is forced to remember all of this.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
the only one that remembers
and you're like, oh, it kind of sucks to hear him, but it's fine. It's like the best ending out of all of it in a way.
Yeah.
And then you realize that Suzuha, because in this version of history, Suzuha didn't come back.
Yeah.
Suzuha didn't die in the 60s.
Yeah.
So it was...
And then suddenly... And
then she comes back and she's like, oh, yeah...
you need to stop World War III.
And in doing so...
you need to save her.
You need to save her to stop World War III, okay? It doesn't really matter about World War III. That's the problem with the show, right? They always say about this bad guy, but the bad guy doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter in the show.
I love the fact that, when she says that you need to stop World War III, it's like, I refuse. Yeah. I refuse. That's got nothing to do with me anymore. I don't care.
Yeah. The last time I tried changing the history, all this crap happened. I don't want to go through that again.
So, but then I shouldn't just say, if I told you by saving, in order to stop World War III, you have to save Carissa. And then he's like, okay, I mean. I kind of liked that. I was like, it fitted him. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, but then I watched this. I'm like, oh my God. It still keeps going. Thank God. Oh my God, my heart hurts. My heart hurts so much. Because like, oh, thank God, let's keep going.
Yeah,
okay.
thank God, that's not the ending.
yeah, that's not the ending. Let's keep going. And so the next episode happens. He goes back in time to the first episode, essentially, right? To the settings of the first episode. He sees himself.
Yeah.
And he has to hide to make sure he's not seen, right? And all these things happen as expected. You know, he remembers everything that happened that day, and he makes sure he's out of it.
Yeah.
And he sees the moment where Carissa was going to get killed, and he's like waiting. He's like, oh, so who kills her? Yeah. Who's in charge? Who's responsible for killing her? And you see that her dad, who you've never really seen throughout the whole show, he shows up, and he and her has an argument, and you're like, oh my God.
He's going to kill her.
Her father is the one who kills her? That really sucks. And then there's like this whole, they're fighting kind of thing. There's a struggle. And Okabe's like, I've got to stop this.
Yeah.
I've got to stop him from killing her. So he grabs a knife to go and stab the father. Except the father sidesteps. And Okabe...
No. Carissa pushes him out of the way.
Carissa pushes the father.
It's not clear in the anime because in the game it's very clear that what action she took. Okay. When I was watching, I was like, oh, that wasn't very clear.
Yeah. So in the struggle, she pushes her father away, not to save him. No. She was just pushing her father away because the father was killing her.
No. She pushed her father away to save him.
Really?
Yes.
That wasn't very clear in the anime
either. I know. So in the game, it tells you specifically that she saw Okabe,
who she doesn't know,
holding a knife, charging at her father.
So she
pushes him away,
even though the father was trying
to kill her.
Yeah,
and she can tell that this guy was kind of trying to save her, but she pushes him away.
Father away,
and Okabe unfortunately stabs Carissa.
And I'm like, what? No! It's like the reason why she's dead, the reason why all this happened was because Okabe killed her. And I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with this? Oh my God. I'm like, this is even worse than before because now you even realize why she died. Yeah. He killed her. I'm like, what? He's like, no, this can't be real. She's not dead. She's not dead, but she is dead. She is dead. And the next thing you know, they're back in the timeline. They're back in the current timeline. Yeah. Suzuha's carrying Okabe out. Okabe is like completely
distraught,
shell shocked because he's covered in blood.
Yeah. He just killed the woman she loved.
He loved. Yeah. And the only reason why all this happened was because he killed her.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, we're watching this and we're like, what? What? And then Suzuha's like, oh yeah, I'm
really sorry.
I'm sorry. No, and you're like, oh, is she sorry because he killed her? Like, no, I'm sorry I had to put you through this, but you had to kill her.
Yeah.
So that you could save her.
Yeah.
We're like,
and then you're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, you see, it's very hard to explain, right? Yeah. Like, let's just not go through that. He had to kill her so that he could then go back and try and save her again.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't really make sense until you watch it. Just watch it. Just believe us. Okay.
Yeah.
He had to kill her so that he could see a message from his future self, a distraught future self, so to speak, telling him, you could go back and save her now.
Yeah. And I'll teach you, and I'll tell you how you can.
And I'll tell you how you do that. And now, while he was saying that, so now this is kind of like becoming upbeat, right? Like you have hope again, and music is getting played, and it's like a kind of upbeat, kind of like fist bumping, kind of like like, we can do this, be inspired. Yeah, we're gonna go at this again. We're all so pumped, and like he's standing up, like the main guy's standing up, like I could do this, I could do this, and everyone's
puts back on his personnel of his like crazy mad scientist, like, hey, I can do this.
All his friends are like, we believe in you, you can do this, and like the ending song is happening, and this is the end of episode 3, and I'm like, please tell me there's more, right? Because it's kind of like that open-ended ending. Like, he's going to go back and try and save her, but does he succeed? Play the game and find out. Like, that's the kind of feeling I'm getting. Like, please no. And like, episode 23 ends, and there's no episode 24. And that was, as I said, like, what? No. But there is a 24. He does go back, and there's a very convoluted way. He does this find out, like, he was pretty much told, you need to reconstruct the events.
Everything that you've seen.
So it does look like you killed her.
Yeah. You can't, everything that you've seen so far has to remain, because by having that remain, all of the things that you've experienced the past 3 weeks would remain. And you need all that.
Don't create a paradox.
Yeah, don't create a paradox.
Don't erase anything, because if you erase that, you'll erase the last 3 weeks, and we need the last 3 weeks to stay intact so that you retain your memory. Yeah, and everyone else retained their memory as well. It's very convoluted, but it doesn't matter. So he goes around and makes sure.
So basically, what the message is basically telling him is like, you need to lie to the world and lie to the world. Yeah, lie to the world and lie to yourself.
No, you just have to lie to yourself. He doesn't matter if he lies to the world, right? Yeah. You have to lie to yourself. Your previous self, the first version of yourself in episode 1
that
walked into a room and saw her unconscious on the floor covered in blood. And then you ran out of there. Yeah. That's all you need to reenact, essentially. Yeah. That's what you have to recreate. Yep. So he hides. He sees the father, struggling with the daughter. Yeah. He comes out without a knife this time, scares the guy away, essentially, scares the father away. Then he knocks Carissa unconscious. I was like, okay, now I need to cover her in blood. I had this vial of fake blood that I could just, pour all over her.
That was what he wanted to do.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to do, right? Like, I'll just pour this fake blood all over her, and that would recreate the scene. Yeah. Okay, I don't even know whether I need to go into this much detail, but I think it was kind of fun, right? It's like, but he opens the vial, it's like, oh, shoot.
It's dry.
It's all dried. like, it doesn't matter. Oh, should we actually even mention, like, before we said that the time travel was only by messages?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think we got so into this that we didn't actually mention. The first part of the show says that they can only they can't time travel physically. Yeah. They can send text messages, a certain length of text messages back in time, which would affect history. Yeah. And the person who sent the message, in this case, the person who could remember this, Okabe, he doesn't travel back in time. Yeah. All the effects just happens. Yeah. And he's just standing stock still in this current time. Everything else changes around him. Yeah.
So that's the initial
part. The initial time travel. Yeah. Later on in the show, they find out that they could compress his memories into a small enough package, so to speak, and send it back in time into his own body. Yeah. So physically, he doesn't transfer in time, but his consciousness transfers back to a previous version of himself, and he could physically act and make changes to make sure things go according to plan. Yeah. So that's the second version of teleportation. Time travel. The third kind of teleportation is the kind that Susuha does, which is in the future they could create an actual machine that you could sit inside, and the machine will take you back in time, like a TARDIS. Yeah. And so that's like the most advanced version of time travel. And because she's here with her time traveling machine, that's why Okabe could physically go into that machine, go back into the first episode and make all these changes. I forgot to mention all of this, right? Like, and I'm wondering whether people are getting confused. So He's sitting. He's in this room.
Yeah.
She's unconscious. He has a vial that's dried up, and he doesn't have any blood to put on her.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what can I do? Yeah. Oh, I have a knife. What can I do?
Yeah, actually, it was not quite like that, but Dad actually stabs him.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, he was already hurt.
Yeah. So what happened is like he was thinking he was going to do that, and then he opens the vial and it's like, oh, there's nothing in there, and then he sees the dad and her arguing, and he was like, oh shit, what do I do now? I don't have anything blood. And then he goes, oh, he's got the knife. And so he deliberately antagonizes the father.
Dad. So the dad
stabs him, and then he scares him off.
Yep.
And then knocks her unconscious. And then he basically uses his
Bleeds
own
all
blood.
Over. Okay. Well, that's the thing, right? You're already bleeding, so you might as well bleed on her. That makes sense. Except it's like, not enough blood. Let me, like...
Pull my wound open and just pour all this blood. It's like, oh, God.
But luckily he doesn't die. I was afraid that he was going to die. And then you still have one person who died. Anyway, he decided to use his own blood to, cover her own blood.
Yeah.
So... He travels back in time, and it's all good.
Yeah,
he
manages to fool himself to thinking that was the case.
Yes,
but naturally, she didn't die.
She didn't die, but it also meant that nothing that had happened kind of happened in a way. Like everyone's forgotten all that's happened in the show.
Yeah,
they kind of have like slight inklings.
Yeah.
And he's the only one who remembers it fully.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, oh, that kind of like a cheat. It cheats us, right, of having any kind of good resolution.
Yeah.
But he goes back he goes back to his current time. Everyone's kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
He makes these pins and he gives them these pins, and they don't really know why they're receiving these pins. And so all of this, you're watching all this, it's the end of this episode, like it's coming to the end, and you're like, oh, that's kind of annoying, you know. And then you realize that Carissa's nowhere to be found because she's actually from America, right? If none of this happened, she wouldn't stay here. She would have gone back to America. And you're like, oh, that's kind of sad. Except then they bump into each other on the street.
Yeah.
And
Carissa goes like, oh, I finally found you.
And you're like, oh, does she remember everything?
Yeah.
No, she doesn't. She just was looking for this weirdo who kind of like accosted her father and got stabbed by her father. Yeah. And
she just wants to say thank you.
Yeah, she wants to say thank you.
Because she knew that he saved her in a way.
Yeah.
But she wasn't sure why, and she wasn't sure
what happened.
Yeah. But so she stayed to look for him, and
especially if she was unconscious, wakes up and she's covered in blood.
Yeah,
where's this guy? Did he die? What happened to him? Right. So she's looking for him, and then
they cross paths.
And then he reverts to his weirdo self and calls her by her, Christina. And her instant reaction was her reaction was. Has she known him? Yeah. Has she known him?
He's like, don't call me Krista, and I'm sure not as your assistant.
And then she's like, wait a second.
What did I just say that? It just popped into my mouth. It was just there. And that was when you realized that, oh.
She retained him.
Maybe she remembers a bit of it.
And or that she would give him a chance to tell her. And she would remember, she would believe him. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, and then they kind of end that way, right? And you're like, oh, that's a good ending. Yeah. That's a nice ending. That's cool. And it was a lot of happy feels. It was a lot of happy feels.
Right.
Okay, so that was our view on Steins.
Oh, the characters. Actually, I think we covered everything.
That's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure we're running out of time.
I know, right? I just looked and go, wow, we're like 2 hours into this now. Whoops.
Okay, so Peter really loves the show, right? You really like it?
I really love the show.
I'm just summarizing this because we have no time. I just have to... Okay, so you think playing the game helps you enjoy the game more?
Definitely. I think if you are the type of person that likes to know the details and likes to know the sciencey stuff from it, definitely play the game because it gives you a lot better explanation of how.
And it's available on Steam.
It's available on Steam. It's on PS Vita. So yeah, you can get.
And it's English.
It's in English. Yeah. So easily accessible for most people.
But in saying that, as a person who didn't play the game, it's perfectly all right. Like it didn't. I didn't feel like I missed anything. Now, obviously, if I played the game and watched the thing, I might have realized, certain things are not there. But having not played it, just watching it, I'm like, everything made sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? It was perfectly fine.
The game just gives you a lot more, because in the game you can choose to go you can choose to not save Mayuri, and in that sense, you learn a lot of other backstories.
Yeah.
We didn't go into the crazy time loop one.
No,
but
it's fine. It's
But
fine.
anyway, so yeah, if you want to learn more, then play the game.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the animated series it's fine by itself.
Yeah. But no matter whether you're playing the game or watching the anime, be completely be mentally prepared that the start is very slow. So freaking slow. But
definitely worth it though.
Yeah. Although we have said, you shouldn't be listening to this unless you've watched it. And if you hear our warning now about the start being slow, you've already ruined your experience of it anyway. But yeah, regardless. Okay,
so what are we going to do next, Serena?
Okay, I found out today that Peter never watched a movie called Secret. Now, this is not an English movie. This is actually a Taiwanese movie, starred and directed by Jay Chou, the Taiwanese singer. Now, before you turn away and discuss, because I understand a lot of times movies that are directed and starred by the same person can be a little... This one is pretty good. And the thing was, this was a pretty big movie back in 2007. It was pretty big in Hong Kong. And I say this because both me and Peter were in Hong Kong at that time. And I don't understand how he could possibly miss this.
I know, right? Like the interesting thing was like when she showed me like clips of, I had no idea what it was. And I was like, I don't even...
He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember seeing the name, the title, anything.
No, I remember the title, but like I don't remember anything about like the plot. I don't remember seeing any like billboards. I don't remember any of that.
Apparently, somehow he managed to live in Hong Kong and not be affected. Like no one talked to him about it. He didn't see any ads for it. I don't know how, happened.
But it just happened.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. But when she told me the Chinese title, which is 不能说的秘密, I was like, I kind of have a recollection of that.
I think I remember a song by that name. I'm like, yeah, Jay Chou did have a song by that name. And then Peter listened to this and I was like, wait, this is not the song I was thinking of. And I'm like, okay. So apparently you somehow managed to bypass everything about this movie. So because of that, I'm like, no, Peter, you need to watch it. Now, in case people are like thinking, oh, this is a Taiwanese movie, how am I going to watch it? Let's say I watched it with English subtitles because I don't understand Mandarin very well myself. And it's available on YouTube. So I'm going to put a link in there so everyone can enjoy it. Because I don't know how else you could watch it. It's not any streaming services. It's not on iTunes. You can maybe buy it from Amazon, but then you got to wait for it to arrive. I mean, I'll put in an Amazon link if I could find it. I'll put it in multiple methods, but since they put it on YouTube and they haven't put it down yet, and it's good quality with English subtitles, why not? Give it a watch. I think it's pretty cool. It is a love story. I'm not going to say anything else about that because I don't want to ruin anything.
But that's what we're going to do next.
Yes, that's what we're going to do next. So, I think we really need to wrap up.
Yep.
I got to do a lot of editing. As per usual, you can find our show notes at triggerpointfm.com/19. You could Twitter us at triggerpointfm. You can email us at triggerpointfm@gmail.com. And you can find us on Facebook, but because I have a thing against Facebook nowadays, I'm not going to talk anything about that at all.
Okay. Anyway, until then, we shall see you guys next time.
Yep.
Bye.